Hello, hello. I'm Avaris Harkay, back with The Winter Tower by Everium. Last time, Ekaterina Ivanova made it to the Winter Tower and met Alexis, and they struck a bargain so he'd open the doors that he sealed shut. He's a tricksy and dishonest wizard with a bad case of projection, constantly saying Ekaterina is a liar, and the squatters, I mean the elves, help him along with that kind of gaslighting, despite the fact that Ekaterina hasn't lied once from the narrative viewpoint. How will this 1 year period go, having to spend a year living under these conditions? I'm gonna guess not well. But let's find out and dive in. We are now on Chapter 4. No snow sugar. If you were ever to celebrate your coming-of-age ceremony at the Winter Tower, you would find yourself welcomed by doors sealed with piles of snow. A horse glued to the fireplace who would refuse its feed with hostility, and elves that fought you for the jar of sugar cubes. Not only the elves, of course, but a certain man might try to steal the jar as well. Alexis? How many times have I told you that sugar is for Shadow?
It's as I told you, Kate.
Alexis munched on the sugar cubes he'd taken from the jar. It's said by Ekaterina, but I think it's supposed to be narrative.
I need a regular dose of sugar.
The amount of sugar you consume every day is abnormal. You'll bleed syrup if you prick your finger at this rate.
Possibly. I can't say either way since I've never bled much.
I put my hand out, demanding he give the jar back. Alexis licked his lips with disappointment and grabbed a bag of crackers as he handed me the sugar jar. Have those if you need a snack. We have a limited supply of sweets here, unlike at the castle. You may take my portion of sweets, but I can't allow you to take Shadow's.
But crackers are dry and awful.
No, that's just too bad. I sighed heavily as I watched Alexis grumpily nibble on the crackers. Why do you and the elves love sweets so much?
Have you never heard the story?
What story?
The one about how snow is God sprinkling sugar crystals onto the planet.
Then clearly you should go outside and eat a bunch of snow. There's a lot out there. Feel free, have at it. Why sugar instead of salt?
Salt is disgusting. Even God prefers sugar.
If you say that in front of a priest, you would be branded a heretic. Well, he is an amalgamation of magic. I think his existence is pretty heretical. Alexis choked on a cracker. He hastily massaged his throat and reached for a glass of water.
What I mean to say is the elves were born that way. It's natural.
And you're just a big ol' elf, are ya? Alexis emphasized his words for effect.
Elves to the very core love sweets, pranks, and...
Alexis! Suddenly the fireplace went cold, and an elf jumped out. Alexis turned to the elf and regarded them calmly.
What brought you here all by yourself? Where is your partner?
I turned to the fireplace as the elf rushed to grab something. However, he was not strong enough to pull it out. Alexis reached into the chimney to help, to no avail. Nor was I helpful in assisting the two of them. Whatever was in the chimney, it was properly jammed in there. We need an extra hand. Who should I call for help? Call Shadow's name out loud, Father, or Romanoff. Romanoff is all the way back at the castle. That's unlikely. Father, he was injured last we heard. I guess the horse could help. Like, if we could somehow tie a thing around whatever's in there, and then use the horse to, like, pull it out, maybe. Like, that's the best I could come up with at the moment. But these two are both out of bounds. Shadow! Shadow pretended she didn't hear me, busy looking for something more engaging. Okay, so no matter what we pick, no one's coming. Our main character, as ineffectual as always, lovely. How could you? I was sure Alexis's laziness had begun influencing her. Shadow, if you help me pull this out, I will treat you to a whole bag of snacks. It was the word snacks that finally moved her. Just you wait, Shadow. When it gets warmer, I will retrain you properly. I took a deep breath before shouting. Pull on the count of 3. 1, 2. Though I heard something cracking, there was no turning back now. 3. Almost there, but we need more force. What should I do? Apparently Shadow was the strongest out of us 4. How can I convince Shadow to pull harder? Tell her that she'll be rewarded with more snacks. Frame whatever this thing is for stealing Shadow's snacks. I feel like we already promised her snacks. I don't know if this will work, though. I guess we frame it. Shadow, this thing in the chimney is the one who stole all your snacks. Oh, hey! Shadow finally gets a Sprite. Cute! Shadow neighed at the top of her lungs and pulled with the force of might I'd never witnessed in my entire life. With a loud bang, the room was covered in soot. Everyone coughed and sneezed incessantly due to the dust. I desperately reached to open the windows to ventilate the room. Soon, the ashes settled and my vision cleared. Then, I noticed that the only one still in decent shape was Shadow, who stood in proud triumph. The power of snacks sure is something. I gave Shadow a pat on her neck and fed her sugar cubes one by one. Alexis, on the other hand, looked abysmal. He picked up the crackers that he had dropped and gradually approached the spherical object in the corner of the room.
Is this your partner?
The elf gave it an affirmative nod. Only elves and smoke could pass through the chimney, but this fellow was rounder than the ones I was used to seeing. The only things that gave the sphere away were his pointy hat and the face below it. I've seen those odd eyebrows somewhere before. Hey, you're the thief who stole our sugar cubes a couple of days ago! Wow, Kate, way for a story to happen off-screen. The elf, now that his crime had been revealed, waved his arms and legs in an attempt to run away. However, the most he could do was struggle to keep his balance. Wow. I didn't expect my random excuse would turn out to be true. He was like the other elves a few days ago. What could have happened to him between now and then? Alexis, I have a question for you.
All right.
Is turning into a giant ball, becoming round like him, part of an elf's maturation?
This is the effect of snow sugar disease.
We now have a disease on our hands? Snow sugar disease?
Remember when I told you that snow was God sprinkling sugar crystals onto the planet?
Wasn't that only a story?
Well, real snow certainly doesn't taste as sweet.
Alexis licked his lips as if he were disappointed by his own words.
Even so, snow and sugar look very similar, don't they?
They really don't. Like, you can say what you want about little snow piles and stuff, but the moment you get close to it, it does not look a thing like sugar. It really doesn't. Honestly, it's probably the glittery aspect. Sugar has more of that. But the other thing is, like, temperature is a dead giveaway. So is texture. Like, if you want to say that it looks similar, like, maybe there's a bit of a resemblance. But to be honest, if you actually have the two things in front of you, everything from temperature to smell, it's all just so drastically different. It's like comparing a glass of vodka and a glass of water. You can tell by, like, the smell and viscosity. There's definite differences. I don't know. They are trying to be poetic, though, so I guess I get it. From a distance, yes. Oh, she's a realist!
If elves don't regularly ingest sweets, they become like this.
Oh, so you're saying we need more sugar or we're all gonna get sick and bloat. Okay. Wait, is that gonna happen to you when you get... Yeah, nope, my curiosity has curiously just disappeared. I've seen people become overweight because they ate too many sweets, but never the other way around. Alexis gave me a strange look.
Aren't they the same thing?
No? What on earth are you on about? In what way?
The elves' main source of energy is sugar, just as grains are for humans.
In any case, do you have a solution? Yeah, let's not address that weird statement that he made, because he's just a weirdo and we accept it and move on. So, solutions. Alexis nodded.
I understand that this will be difficult for you, my friend. However, you won't be able to climb through the chimneys in your condition. You barely made it out of this one.
Alexis pointed at the messy fireplace.
You're banned from eating any more snow sugar until you're back to normal.
A single teardrop fell from one of the elf's eyes. Okay, this makes more sense. Do we have a solution? He just nods. Really should have said, and turned to the elf. You're banned from eating more snow sugar until you're back to normal. But he just said that it was from not getting enough. Maybe he just says the wrong thing on accident or something. You know, like one of those Rune Factory character quirks where it's like, they actually only say the opposite of what they really mean. A single teardrop fell from one of the elf's eyes. Oh, no more sugar. How sad. The elf who was banned from eating snow sugar went crazy baking himself sweets and pastries to eat every day. Because I stopped allowing the elves to use sugar kept in the tower, where he found all that sugar was beyond me. To my surprise, the elf's neck was visible after only 2 days of treatment. Well, dang. That's a... Huh. Then his legs after 3 days, and his arms after 10. The treatment for snow sugar disease seemed effective until the elf entered the sedentary phase. He could barely fit the width of the chimney. For half a month, the elf continued his strict diet, which was heavily based on sugar, of course. Wait, is he not eating sugar, or is he just eating a lot of sugar? Since it was their primary source of energy, it was the equivalent of a human eating only bread for 3 meals a day. That doesn't sound good for anyone. He began to look somber. I noticed the darkness in the elf's eyes in the afternoon that day. It had been warm since the morning, and I was on my way back from taking a whiny shadow for a walk. I went into the pantry to get sugar cubes for her when I noticed Alexis speaking to the elf and taking away his honey biscuits. Next, Alexis shoved the biscuits into his own mouth. That wasn't the end of it. He snatched all the cookies and sweets the elf had baked and threw them into a cracker bag. The elf stood there helplessly as he watched Alexis take his desserts. Kinda feels like we're bullying this little elf, but, I'm guessing Alexis knows what he's doing, as much as it's like, what are you doing, man? I'm sure he knows what he's doing. I'm sure it's fine. Whatever. Him and the elves are doing their thing. I'm sure it's fine. It was none of my business whether Alexis stole desserts from the elves or not. And since I turned a blind eye, Alexis continued doing as he pleased. Presumably, the elf baked more sweets and pastries than what was taken away, so he recovered from snow sugar disease after 10 more days. Was I supposed to interfere? Chapter 5, Forbidden Trick. I don't understand what's going on in this now. A white pigeon pecked at the frozen window. I let it in while rubbing my tired eyes. The pigeon landed atop my hand, carrying the cool scent of winter on its feathers. My family emblem was attached to the leather strap around its left leg, and a note was tied around its right leg. Who is this from? If it's not your Romanoff or your father, don't trust it. Oh, Romanoff. Oh, okay, cool. I pocketed the note and tied the letter I'd prepared ahead of time to its leg. I'd been exchanging letters with Romanoff like this once a week. If the pigeon didn't arrive after a month or carried a suspicious message, it meant that something had happened at the castle. The identity of the ring thief has been uncovered. The note delivered more information. 2 months was more than sufficient. Romanoff had been distracting them, buying me 2 months' worth of time. Now that they knew I was the one who took the rings, they would try whatever they could to get them from me. Since they couldn't exactly command the Ivanov army to march here, they would likely opt to send a few select, well-trained soldiers under cover. Oh, goodness. The kitchen was in chaos. It was as if there had been an explosion. The floor was covered in a mysterious fluid. A suspicious, glowing pot extinguished the flame of the hearth it was set upon. The elves were sweating in a panic, frozen to the spot. This was the scene I found after returning from a 2-hour walk. You'd better have a good explanation for all of this. The elves vigorously shook their heads when they met my glare. Not me! Nor me! I didn't do it! I didn't do it! From my own personal experiences with the elves, I knew they were poor liars. Who caused this mess? They wouldn't tell me who the culprit was. They even tried their best to avoid my gaze and act as if they couldn't hear me. If not the elves, however, there was only one other suspect. Alexis? Alexis walked down the stairs with a book in his hand. His calmness in spite of the mess in the kitchen gave him the air of a seasoned warrior. Unfortunately for Alexis, this was not a battlefield, nor was he a fighter.
Calm down.
Oh, I'm very calm.
Getting all worked up like that is bad for your heart.
How could you make the kitchen this messy in the blink of an eye? Alexis retrieved balls of soot from the glowing pot and placed them on the table.
Still far from perfecting the look of it.
What are you making? Charcoal? Alexis snapped at me.
How rude. These are almond cookies.
Ew. Cookies.
You'll understand if you taste them.
Absolutely not. You must be joking.
Try one if you don't believe me.
Gonna be honest, I don't want to try his burnt cookies. They probably taste absolutely awful. Also, what happened to him not being able to lift a finger? He's just trying to trick her into it. I can't believe him. Don't try it. I mean, this is the obvious thing where it's like, yeah, F no, clean up this mess or I'll kick you. But hey, let's try it, because goodness knows. Since Alexis refused to eat anything that wasn't sweet, I might as well trust it. No, you don't need to trust this dude. We're gonna vomit on his shoes. I chipped off a bit of the burnt mess, praying I'd be okay after I swallowed it. To my surprise, it did, in fact, taste like an almond cookie. Ew, how? Moreover, it had an excellent balance between creaminess and nutty texture from the almonds. I call hacks. Or is this just a wizard thing? It's probably just a wizard thing. It suited my taste perfectly, even though I wasn't a huge fan of sweets. The savoriness lingered on my taste buds for a long while. Cookies, misshapen like balls of soot. Did you do it on purpose? Like those pranks the elves pull on me.
If only that were the case.
So you're just not gonna explain your weird little abomination cookies. Okay. Alexis handed me a cup of tea as he watched me grab more of his soot balls.
I tried making them the way you taught me, but things ended up like this because I lost control of the fire.
Then they really should have just burned and not be tasting like anything. The way I taught him. When in the world did I teach him to bake cookies in a pot? Alexis opened a book he had set aside and directed my attention to a specific recipe.
See here?
I'm sure it calls for a pan.
It says keep stirring on a low flame. How fast and how low should it be?
Doesn't that mean you should stir the pot on a flame that's close to extinguishing? At that moment, a realization struck me like lightning. Alexis, please don't tell me you were following these instructions in the most literal sense.
I was.
His naive, sparkling eyes put me in a cold sweat. Since cooking wasn't a necessary skill for succeeding my father's title, I never paid much attention to it. I hadn't anticipated that Alexis would take my suggestions so seriously. Frankly speaking, it was a miracle that he'd made cookies in a pot which was clearly only meant for soups and stews. Perhaps Alexis is naturally talented at cooking? He might have been inexperienced with the tools of the trade, but the quality of his final product spoke for itself. My staring at the charred cookies embarrassed Alexis. He cleared his throat and spoke.
I'll bake better-looking cookies next time.
There's nothing wrong with these ones. They taste delicious. Plus, clearly my instructions weren't clear enough last time.
Truly?
Yes, I mean it. And they go well with this tea.
Thank you for the compliment.
Oh my god, it's like we're being civil. Alexis's voice was slightly brittle, but it was too subtle to decipher the exact reason behind that emotion. I would have had a wonderful afternoon once the chaos in the kitchen was taken care of, but the elves wouldn't allow for a single moment of peace. They began crawling out of the chimney one by one. Give me a break. While ordinary elves' hats reached up to my thigh, the elf in front of me's hat barely reached up to the belt of the rest of them. Does this one have some sort of illness? I whispered into Alexis's ear.
No. They were only born recently.
Alexis picked up the baby elf and pressed their foreheads together, then whispered a blessing.
Hello. I am Alexis Yevgenik Strelnikov. Welcome to this sweet world.
The tiny elf giggled while happily tapping on Alexis's cheeks.
Kate, would you like to hold him too?
Okay. She's so pretty, though.
Here.
Alexis handed me the little elf while I was lost in thought. Unexpectedly, he felt very light. Hello. My name is Ekaterina Ivanova. Nice to meet you. He was very light and very small. The baby elf giggled and touched my face as he'd done to Alexis. Every time his fingers brushed against my skin, sparkles drifted through the air. After lunch, I went out for a walk as an excuse to be alone, though he did ask me to look after him. I couldn't organize my thoughts amid the flood of unnecessary mental images I'd created. I've certainly become lazier since arriving at the Winter Tower. I found this time of peace quite awkward, perhaps because I didn't need to follow a strict training regiment here. You should be doing that anyway just to keep up with things. I kept up with my training every day, but it still felt as if I were lacking something important. Siren and her son must be up to something. Well, keeping up with my training is the best I can do for now. I won't let myself be shaken easily. All right, time to head back. I had never gotten lost in the woods before, yet I couldn't find the Winter Tower, despite walking for quite a while. Oh no, and maybe the elves are playing another horrible trick on us. We'll have to find out next time. Thanks so much for joining me. Hopefully this was entertaining for you as it was for me. I'm giving the wizard a lot of flack just because I guess the story's just kind of getting started, and I don't quite know the rules and things yet. But honestly, he's fine as a character. It'll be interesting to see how this develops. And given the little cookie scenario, it seems like the characters are going to get a little closer to understanding and appreciating each other too. So this has been very cutesy so far. There's definite hints of things that could go sideways pretty easily, so we'll see what comes to some of that. But anyway, thanks so much for watching. I hope you have a good one. Bye!